Welcome to Skip the Queue, a podcast for people working in or working with visitor attractions. I'm your host, Kelly Molson. In today's episode, I speak with Dominic Jones, CEO of the Mary Rose Museum and Director of Portsmouth Historic Dockyard. Dominic shares the amazing impact of the joint venture between the Mary Rose Museum and the National Museum of the Royal Navy, and his advice for any attractions looking to start and improve their partnership arrangements. If you like what you hear, subscribe on all the usual channels by searching Skip the Queue. Dominic, welcome to Skip the Queue. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it, I think.
You are looking forward to it. You don't need to think about it. Can we just point out, I know listeners, you can't see this, but if you're watching this on YouTube, can we just see you've got a lovely little I love Skip the Queue graphic in the background there. Look at that.
Yeah, I think it's important to get across that I do love Skip the Queue, and it's important to get that across before the icebreaker questions, I think, just in case you had a couple and you were thinking, oh, I'm going to be a bit tough. And then so I did that. And I tweeted this morning how excited I am about your forthcoming website attraction questionnaire.
Ooh,
so
yeah,
that's a double positive, right?
Thank you. Don't worry, listeners. I've got a special little recording so you understand what we're talking about that will be coming out in the next week or so you'll find out more about that soon.
I bought you a rubber. Your rubber collection. Can you see that? Wow, Mary Rose rubber.
Look at that.
You may or may not get that depending on how the icebreakers go. So that's my third attempt.
Gosh, I've never been bribed for a good icebreaker question before.
It's not bribery. It's a nice gift. It's a nice
gift. Well, let's get cracking on the icebreaker question, shall we? I think I've been quite kind to you. Tell us something that you are really great at cooking.
Oh, that's a good one. Tell us something I'm really great at cooking. I really like cooking. I actually find cooking really relaxing. So on a Friday or Saturday, I often cook at home. So it depends really. I quite like making my own recipes. So just using what we've got in the house. So for example, like scallops with chorizo, or if you're doing a steak, might do it with some sort of watercress and various cheese. Or just sort of experimenting. I really like sort of seeing what we've got, putting it together and making it work. So I think it's important when you're cooking to drink some wine as well. So
I agree.
Cooking with wine is kind of something I enjoy doing.
We can be friends, Dominic. Absolutely, we can be friends. Also, really great choices of food there. I would definitely eat both of those. You'd be really good on Ready, Steady, Cook then. That would have been your show.
Do you know what? I once applied for a game show, which I didn't get on. I was very disappointed. But Ready, Steady, Cook was one I think I could have done. Because it's not hard, is it? Most things go with things. And it's also about having the confidence to carry it off. And knowing, the only time it went wrong was I once cooked... for my girlfriend, who's now my wife, a lemon pasta dish, and it tasted awful, and it had lemon rind in it and stuff. So, but apart from that, it's always worked out.
Good. All right. And well, I mean, you must have done all right. She married you.
Yeah.
She married you in the end. All right. Well, our next one, I've gone topical for this. If you were the captain of a pirate ship, what would be the name of your ship?
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, I do like pirates. I think because I'm Welsh, and because I'd want to be a pirate who, a bit like sort of the warrior in the dockyard, which isn't a pirate ship, by the way, but when it came in, people normally surrendered. I want to be like a scary pirate that people would think, oh, maybe like the Smoking Dragon or something like that. And then we'd light smoke as we came in so people are like, oh, here's the Smoking Dragon.
Yeah, I like that. And there'd be like a big dragon's head on the front with like flame and smoke coming out of it.
Because a lot of pirates were Welsh. I don't know whether you know this, but a lot of the original pirates were Welsh. It's massive.
Wow. Massive. Okay, all right. This is great. That's an excellent answer. All right. Go on.
I have to say, these are slightly biased questions because otherwise, I was listening to a few of your podcasts recently, and like you had someone from the zoo, what's your favourite animal? Or you had someone from IAPA, what's your favourite ride? And I'm getting a name a pirate ship. All
right, what's your favourite boat?
No, I'm joking. No, I'm not going to answer that.
All right, but what is your favourite smell? That's my last question.
Oh, that's a good one. And genuinely, it's a really good one. We're looking at smell now for the museum because smell is so important. It's something that can make a difference. When I was at Valentino's Amsterdam, we used smell as well as part of the experience because it just creates that emotive moment. I do like cookie dough and cookies and the smell of that sort of baking, which you get pumped in Disney parks. I quite like the smell of red wine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's food or drink smells I like. But yeah, good question.
Good answer. Again, we could definitely be friends.
There we go.
We are at unpopular opinion point. What have you got to share with us?
Well, this is a hard one because I've decided to go work on this. I did have some really cool ones about lager and N-dubs and stuff, but I decided to go with work because one of the things that through my whole career, anyone who knows me will know, is I get really frustrated when people blame the weather. So I think you shouldn't blame the weather for anything, because what happens is when someone blames the weather, when the weather's, so I've worked in theme parks and in museums, so and aquariums, indoor and outdoor attractions, and you probably know that when it's bad weather, it's great for indoor attractions. When it's good weather, it's good for theme parks, right? So you get people that when it's good weather in theme parks or bad weather in museums, they say, oh, our marketing and everything we're doing is brilliant because the visitors are coming. And as soon as it's the bad weather or the good weather, depending on what you are, then it's all about the weather. So our visitors are down because the weather was good if you're in an indoor attraction. And it really, really irritates me. And it's one of those things, they're mutually exclusive. You can only blame the weather if you give the weather credit when it's good. And it's one of those things, if things are good, I always think you should look outside the window and think, right, what's the reason for that? And then things are bad, you should look inside your organisation. So it's one of my pet hates, but probably doesn't work for the podcast. So I should probably go with the lager or N-dubs one. But anyway, there we go. But it's important, right? I think it's a good one.
It is important. No, I think, that is important. It's quite, it's really interesting. I've never really thought about that before. We need to give the weather more credit.
Well, you need to give the weather credit if you're going to use it to blame. It's, for me, it's a constant. It's something, and these days weather forecasts are 10, 14 days out, so you should be able to plan.
Yeah. Okay, good. So, all right. Well,
I'll get off my high horse now. Yeah.
Listeners, let us know how you feel. Also, let us know if you want to know about that N-dubs one as well. I'm intrigued. Right. Dominic, I want you to tell us about your background, because we met up recently, didn't we, at the M&H exhibition. And you're a very humble man. You were very humble about coming on the podcast, and you said, I'm not going to have anything, you've had really interesting people on and I'm not that interested. You are really interesting, and you've had such an incredible background. Tell us a little bit about it and how you got to where you are now.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I do like listening to your podcast, and you have some amazing guests, and 9 times out of 10, I normally think after listening to them, right, I'm going to either do something that they've suggested, or I follow them on LinkedIn or Twitter and think, right, let's learn from them, because I think you should always learn from other people. But so my career is a lot of luck, a lot of opportunity, and a lot of chance. When I was growing up, I wanted to be a leisure centre manager. Like you probably won't remember, like the British Empire, but that was my dream. That was my dream. Much to my mum's disappointment, and so that was all I ever wanted. So I went to college and did a leisure studies course at H&D, and there was a placement in PGL Adventure, which is like an adventure park, and I was a multi-activity instructor. Absolutely loved it, but then I sort of realised actually there's a whole world out there, and decided I wanted to work in theme parks. So I applied to work at Disney and didn't get it. The first time I was very cocky. I was the wrong sort of person for Disney, but I went back 3 times and eventually got it. And I did a placement in Disney, and it was the best thing I ever did. And it changed my life. It's one of the few jobs that I've left and thought my life will never be the same again. It was so good. So I did that, and I got my master's degree. I didn't get the doctorate because I went on spring break. But hey, you've got to be. I was young.
Spring break though.
Yeah, totally. I was young, and then sort of went to work at Thorpe Park and was a ride operator. I remember my friends and some of their family were saying that's a real waste of, because I went to in between Disney, went to university in Swansea, and they said it's a real waste of university operating a teacup for £3.50 an hour or whatever it was at the time. but I loved it. And for me, I thought, if you want to become a manager or you want to become eventually a general manager or a director of a theme park, it's really important to know how these things work. So I loved it. And just in case you ever get to operate the teacups, it's not too complicated. There's a red and green button. The red is to stop and the green is to start. I mean, it was 5 hours of training, but I finally mastered it. And then and you can't actually make it go faster. So when you're there on the microphone and say, do you want to go faster? You can't. It goes faster anyway. But I loved it. And then very quickly rose through the ranks. So I became a ride supervisor, team leader, area team leader, coordinator. Went to Chessington, worked there just at the time when Two Swords had bought Thorpe Park. So it was a real sort of great time for career opportunities. Then I went to Madame Two Swords, was the customer service manager there, and helped create the first sort of contact centre, if you like, call centre, where we sold tickets for things like Rock Circus, which is no longer in existence, but Rock Circus, the London Eye, Madame Two Swords, the Planetarium, and sort of that became the Merlin contact centre in the future. And then I started applying for loads of jobs, more general manager jobs, and didn't get them, and realised that I needed to get some marketing and sales experience. So I left and went to work for Virgin. And then I was there for nearly 10 years and absolutely loved it. And instead of getting the sales and marketing, I got the sales experience. I ended up becoming vice president of Europe, Middle East and Africa for the logistics side of the business. And then also so we opened up Kenya, had some amazing life experiences. We saw the whole world. And then was regional vice president sales in Hong Kong for Asia Pacific. So great time. And then my wife became pregnant. Obviously, I was involved in that, but and it made me realise that I probably couldn't do a job where I was travelling 24/7. I mean, for a while, I did literally consider, which makes me sound like a bad person, I could call in from Skype and things like that. And my wife was like, "Come on." So we went back to Wales, and it was really hard to find a job that would allow me to be at home and be around. So I actually thought, well, originally, when I went to Virgin, I wanted to have marketing experience. So I actually went to Thorpe Park and the marketing team and looked after the partnerships and promotions, did some really cool things. The Ministry of Sound nightclub deal was there, did some stuff with Lionsgate, a really good time doing, the buy one, get one free things, the partnerships and events. We got got some good bands together on the stage that hadn't been on stage before, the Y Boys and the Cut Up Boys, if you know your dance music. It was massive. Anyway, so did that for a bit and then got an opportunity to go back to Wales, which is where my wife's family is from. I'm from North Wales, she's from South Wales. So I got a chance to run Oakwood Theme Park, which I absolutely loved and probably would have been there forever if an opportunity hadn't come at Merlin. And Merlin, it was to look after the rest of Europe. And the rest of Europe was basically anything in their midway, so Madame Tussauds Dungeons, Lego Discovery Centre, Sea Life, that wasn't in the UK or Germany. So it was like Istanbul, Helsinki, Paris, Blankenberg in Belgium, Spain. I mean, it was brilliant. And I did that for a few years. Then I went and ran Thorpe Park for a few years, which I absolutely loved because that was where I started as a teacup operator. And I remember there was a guy there, a good friend of mine. He said, I remember when you were on the teacups, he said, one day I'm going to come back and run the place. And I did. So amazing.
Oh, wow.
And then in that time I had 3 kids and really sort of was commuting from Christchurch. So decided to change careers again and come into the heritage world and came as the COO of the Mary Rose, which I did for 2 years. And then during the pandemic became the CEO. So quick sort of, but lots of luck and right place, right time, all those sort of things. But that's good, right? That's most people's career.
That is amazing. I mean, you've been to so many different places. I love that you went full circle at Thorpe Park as well. What an incredible story to have gone in there as an operator and then end up running the place. That is amazing.
No, yeah, I love that, and actually, all the jobs I've had have really become part of our story. I was talking to someone yesterday about the Mary Rose, and they were talking about what they were going to do next, but how it was the Mary Rose has been massively part of the story. And I said that's the beautiful thing about work and careers and life. Whatever you do, it becomes part of your story, and you're part of their story. So whether it's Thorpe Park, I opened up for Virgin Atlantic the Nairobi route for logistics and the handling. It was amazing. And whenever I've been to Kenya probably more times than I've been to Birmingham. So so that's part of my story. And when I leave the Mary Rose, which I hope isn't anytime soon, this will always be it'll be my favourite Tudor warship. I mean, the only Tudor warship, but also my favourite one. So yeah,
that was the answer to my question as well. What's your favourite ship? Wow, I'm blown away by your career. I just think you've had such a phenomenal journey to get to where you are now. There's something that I want to talk to you about today, and that is something that we discussed a little bit before we got on the podcast, and that's about your joint venture that you have with the Mary Rose and the National Museum of the Royal Navy. I just want to read out a tweet that I saw, because this is what sparked this conversation. So this is a tweet that went out on the Mary Rose Twitter account. It says, "We are very pleased to share that Portsmouth Historic Dockyard saw a 150% rise in visitor numbers in 2021, reported by Alva today. The significant rise in visitors demonstrates the effectiveness of the joint venture between Mary Rose and the National Museum of the Royal Navy in our first year." I am very intrigued by this, because I think, this has been kind of a constant throughout most of the podcast conversations that we have, is about how collaborative the sector is. But this is really specific about two attractions collaborating together to bring more visitors in. I would love you to tell us about this.
It's a great. The end result's fantastic. 150% increase in visitors. It really feels joined up. My son's school is coming in today, so I was in the visitor centre and I was waiting to see what time he was coming in, because he obviously wouldn't tell me the time he's actually in. So I was looking around the visitor centre, and I couldn't be prouder when you see the mixture of sort of Victory and Warrior and Mary Rose and how far we've come since we started. But if you go back in history, the Mary Rose used to be part of Portsmouth Historic Dockyard, and there was one ticket, and there was a separate company called Portsmouth Historic Dockyard that ran it, and lots of trust. At that time, there were lots of trust that fed into it. And then, for whatever reason, some of these trusts went independent. And so when I joined the Mary Rose, we were separate. We had a separate ticket visitor centre, if you like. So imagine sort of I guess like when you're on holiday and there's people trying to get you to go on boat rides, or they're trying to get you to come into their restaurant, and literally we're competing. So when a visitor was outside, there'd be the Mary Rose saying, "Hey, come and see Henry VIII's warship, the biggest Tudor collection in the world." I mean, it's amazing. And then there were people next door, "Hey, come and see the Victory and the Warrior." And it just was really difficult for the customers. And for whatever reason, we weren't together, and we had these two separate companies. So for quite a while, when I started, along with Helen, who was the CEO, and Dominic and a gentleman called John in NMRN, we had meetings to see if we could get closer and to get a deal. And then sort of, I think Matthew joined as well from NMRN, and eventually we kind of got to agreement. It was about what can we do together? What collaboratively can we do? We came up with three things. We can sell tickets together. We could run a visitor centre together. So that's number one, the visitor side. We could market the destination together, and we could do strategic operations like events. So we then looked away and came across a deal. And for us, it was important that the two parties, so Mary Rose and National Museum, had 50-50 parity of decision. So it wasn't like a one-sided joint venture. And it was really, there's lots of talent in both organisations. So, I've always admired what the National Museum of the Royal Navy have done over the years, and how they've told history and how they bring it to life. And obviously, I love the Mary Rose. And so when we put us together, it was just a real opportunity, that synergy. When people say 1 and 1 and you get 3, but it was exactly like that. And it worked really well. So we share marketing. So marketing costs we share marketing resource. So Mary Rose marketing people work along with NMRN marketing people. We do some things independently. So our trusts are independent, our conservation, our research and all that sort of stuff. That's just Mary Rose, and NMRN is just that. Although we are working on some projects together. But in terms of the visitor, we have one visitor centre, we have one ticket you can buy, lots of options. We could talk about that. Some amazing pricing we did, which allowed us to do that. Because when you're competing against each other, you almost are encouraged to discount more. So, we had at times, the National Museum of the Royal Navy, who was saying Portsmouth Historic Dockyard, then, might have a deal on Groupon. We might have a deal on Voucher. And you'd just be discounting. And you wouldn't be really getting across the real value for the customer. So, yeah, it was really hard. And I remember we would really fight for every single visitor, because for us, 84% of our money comes from tickets. So I remember we'd get Henry VIII down out the front. We'd have him talking to the visitors, saying, "Oh, and people talking in French, and he'd go up in French and say, 'Well, I was the King of France. Why are you going to Victory? Come to Merlin.'" Well, he wouldn't be taking them away from Victory, because that would be bad. But he would be saying, "Go to both." And we'd always be positive about Edinburgh, but we'd also want people to come to Melrose, because that was how we were going to survive.
So was it just going back to those times? Then was it more like a rivalry than
really
anything?
Hard.
So it was really difficult.
It was really hard. I mean, we all respected each other, but it was really hard. It was like one of those ferry terminals or restaurants on holiday. I mean, I remember we would flyer, like circus marketing, bumping into the brand, destined resort domination, we called it. We would be literally, when it was sunny, because you can't blame the weather, when it was sunny, we'd be on the beach with Mary Rose leaflets saying, "Hey, get out the cool, we're air conditioned, come to the Mary Rose." We were literally in all the restaurants, we had colour in sheets, come to Mary. It was all about getting everyone to come. And actually, we quickly realised that the NRM was spending so much money on getting people to Portsmouth that we needed to make sure when they're in Portsmouth, they came to the Mary Rose. And we did. I mean, when we look back on it now, we had like adverts that had, because we've been very lucky with TripAdvisor, 5 stars. I mean, I would have dreamed of that at Thorpe Park. We had 5 stars constantly. So we'd have like posters that say, "You've just missed the best thing to do in Portsmouth." And then another one, "Turn around." Like when you go to Camden Town and there's like a McDonald's, a Burger King, and then outside the Burger King there's a sign, "Why are you going to Burger King, going to McDonald's?" It was like that. So it wasn't great.
That's quite intense as well, isn't it, for the visitor? That's a lot of pressure.
Well, it is, and I would do it, and I would literally go down and leave, because you've got to leave from the front, and I would put my Mary Rose coat, I've still got here, and I'd be down there selling, and I remember coaches would turn up, and I'd get one of the ladies who was fantastic with us, Sandra, she's now one of our visitor experience managers, but she'd jump on the coach and say, "Have you booked your tickets? Where are you going? Can I tell you about the Mary Rose?" And she'd bring whole coaches in. It was hard. It was really, I went to sleep every night easy, because it was so tiring. And it wasn't sustainable, and we did need to get a deal. And actually, the National Museum of the Royal Navy and the Mary Rose always treated each other with respect, but it was like the Battle of Victory Gate, and that's not the way to behave, and that's not the long-term way to run a business. So what was really great was we got a deal, we got the ability to sell tickets together, and we got the ability to work together. And there's some really super talented people in the National Museum of the Royal Navy and in Mary Rose, and we did some great things. So, when we reopened after COVID, we did this really cool video where we had Henry VIII, and we had some of their characters from Warrior and some of their actors all visiting each other's attractions in the lift, wearing face masks, getting hand sanitizer, and it just feels joined up. I mean, I've done lots of partnerships in my career. At Merlin, we had a sea life in Helsinki, which was a joint venture with a theme park called Linnanmäki. If you ever get to interview this lady who ran Linnanmäki, or she might be the CEO there at PS, she was amazing. But we had this joint venture. So it's really hard in a joint venture, because you've got, especially if it's a 50-50 parity of decision one, you've got to get agreement. And that means that you work really hard on doing the right thing. So what's quite nice is, if we were on our own, we probably would have done marketing campaigns and other things, which were okay. But because we end up working together, and we've got to make sure we get that joint agreement, the result is always way better. It's brilliant. And the customers benefit, because it's one entrance, it's one ticket. There's a lot more value in it. So, it's been really successful. I don't know what you wanted to talk about with it, whether that's right or
no. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I hadn't realised quite how intertwined the organisations were. In terms of decision making and marketing, like you say, and sharing all of those resources. You talked a little bit about the visitor centre. Did you have to change like the infrastructure and stuff? Did you have to build new buildings and all of that?
No, they had a big visitor centre, because I mean they've got a lot more footprint, more attractions. They've got the Warrior, they've got M33, they've got a submarine museum over in Victory. We've got the Mary Rose, which is amazing. And so we had a building called Porter's Lodge, which was here, and then there's the gate, and then they had their visitor centre, and their visitor centre was perfect. So we moved in there, but we agreed to make it look and feel like it was Mary Rose and National Museum of the Royal Navy. So we spent a bit of money on the look and feel of it. So that was good. And same with the brand and the marketing, and making it feel like it was something new. So there was a bit of that. I mean, in terms of infrastructure, we went with their ticketing system because it made more sense, because it would be a bigger cost for them to change. We went with some of the Mary Rose's media buying because we could buy, at the time, we're buying media cheaper and better. And actually now we're in the process of going to tenders together. So the digital agency we've done together, the PR agency we've done together. And it's great because it's a bigger portfolio and you get different views. I mean, I always think the best way to run any business. So, for example, the Mary Rose or Thorpe Park or wherever is to talk to your customers, to talk to your staff, and then obviously to talk to the managing experts. And we get that in spades because we've also got our staff and our customers and our volunteers, but we've got NRN staff and customers and volunteers, and together we are getting some really cool ideas and things we can do. So it's working well. As you can see, 150% increase.
I mean, I've read it with my own eyes.
And I hope you saw NRN. They did a little nice fist bump reply, and it just is in the spirit of it. We are working together, and I think that's so important.
It is massively important. You mentioned something about pricing earlier, and we've spoken about this before, but you said that you did something interesting that you'd implemented that allowed you to grow the yield and the revenue as well. Was this something that you did jointly too?
Yeah, it was. So we had to come up with a new pricing structure because we were doing something new. So they had full Navy ticket, which was for all of their attractions, and we had an annual ticket. So when we merged, we had to come up with sort of a new pricing structure, and it's a good opportunity to change. And 84% of our business, our revenue comes from tickets. Theirs is about, I think, 80% or so. I can't remember. So it's still important to them as well. So we had to get the pricing right, and it allowed us to really think about what's the best value for the customer and what's the best thing to do that stops us having to discount heavily. So we created it's like a decoy pricing model, like supermarkets have been doing it for years. So, if you buy one attraction, it's a really bad ticket. I mean, still a few people buy them. It's a really bad ticket. So it was it used to be £18. We put the price up to £24. It used to be if you bought one ticket, you could visit that attraction all year. You can only visit it once. So we made it a really unattractive ticket. So that's like your lower decoy. So the idea of that is you only buy that if all you really want to do is go to the Mary Rose, or all you want to go is go to the Victory. And if you've just come to see one of those things, that's the sort of money you would pay. It's very competitively priced with other things in the South Coast. So that's what we did. And then we created a 3-attraction ticket or 3-ship ticket, which was slightly more money. So that went up to £39, which was the biggest sort of stick, about £15 increase, big jump. And that was an annual ticket. That was, you could pick your 3 attractions and visit them all year. And then we did, but for £5 more, you can have an Ultimate Explorer and have everything, including the summer. And that's sort of, so you've got the lower decoy, which is the single attraction. Then you've got sort of like the medium decoy, which is 3 ships. But then you go, but for £5 more, you could do everything. And 80% of people do the Ultimate Explorer and they do everything. And it's so good value when you compare it to, it's less than the price of a football game. And football game, 50% of the time you're disappointed, and you only really get, you don't get long, do you? It is incredible value, and you get to go to all the attractions, you get out on the water. It's brilliant. So we've got that. And then we were going to put in an upper decoy. Now, an upper decoy is like a premium, really expensive ticket. So, for example, we have at Mary Rose, you can go into the ship all for £300 and have a private experience. And we were going to put that in, but actually, because the decoy system works so well, we didn't need that. So we've just kept it as 20 single attraction ticket, 3-attraction ticket, and Ultimate Explorer, and it's working really, really well. So there, that's our price, and because of that, we don't have to discount because we put all the value and loaded the value in. Actually, we don't have to discount. And then when we do discount, we want to reach the right people. So, for example, we do between the months of November and February, we do a loyal and local campaign where we go out to Portsmouth and Southampton regions and we say, bring a bill in and you can get like a considerable discount. All year round, we do a discount for people who've got Portsmouth leisure cards, so anyone who's on universal credits, they get 50% off. And we do some other really cool community engagement stuff between us with schools and stuff like that. And then if we do a discount, so discounts are still important. So there's some amazing partners out there, Get Your Guide, Picnic, lots of the providers that sort of really support businesses, Virgin Ticket Days, all that sort of stuff. But we do it at the right level. So we've got like a playground. So whereas before we might have been competing against each other, so thinking, we need a discount by 40% or 50% and then give them extra commission so they push it. We now do it at a really fair level. So there is a bit of a discount, but it's not much. And then for the consumer, we want the cheapest, best value ticket to always be on our website.
Yeah.
And we used a couple of companies. So we used a company called they were called Branded Carentum. They're now called Magic Little Giants. We used them. We used some insight into what previous businesses had done before. But we copied the American Six Flags website model. If you ever want a quick lesson in pricing, just go to Six Flags. Their website is you're into websites, right? It's the best website for pricing. I love it. And I check it nearly every month. It makes me laugh how focused they are on decoy pricing and how in your face they are, but how you don't know it as a consumer unless you know. It's amazing. It drives my family mad. I love it. Anyway, yeah.
This decoy pricing, I've never heard that phrase. I've never heard that used in pricing before. This is
it's like supermarkets, when you get and I remember we've got a local supermarket near us. And the guy did, buy one bottle of wine, get one wine free, and then he had, buy one wine for £7 or buy two for £7. We were also going to buy two for £7 or two for £8. It's all that sort of trying to encourage behaviour. But he didn't quite get it because recently I went in, it was like buy one, pay for one. And I was like, that's the same as normal, right? But yeah. But he's a nice guy, so I bought one. But that's my problem. But no, it's the same way supermarkets have been doing, where they try with a club card to get you to purchase things, or they're trying to do that. And all we're trying to do is encourage everyone to go for that Ultimate Explorer, which is the best value. It's almost like you can imagine it on the website. It's got signs saying, pick me. So even to the extent we still don't, this day, discount our single attraction ticket on our website. We don't give any discount for it. And then we give a £5 discount on the 3 attractions and £5 on Ultimate Explorer. But yeah, loving the pricing.
Love this. This is such great insight. Thank you for sharing. I really want to know. So this partnership is really intriguing to me because I think it seems like the perfect setup, right? Because you're literally neighbours in the same area. You could make this work really well. What advice would you give to other attractions that are thinking about partnering with other attractions? Like what would be your kind of top tips for people to make this work well?
I mean, it's really hard. You've got to think about, because often people see it as competitors, but you've got to think in terms of getting the customers or the guests or the consumers, whatever you call them, giving them the best value. And, during lockdown, when we were being interviewed and stuff, we'd always say, come visit the Merlin, or come visit, once we did the joint venture, come visit the Historic Dockyard. But also, if you can't come visit, go visit your local museum, go visit anyone. It's important to share that. And I think there are always benefits of working together. You're always stronger together. When I was at Oakwood Theme Park in Wales, amazing theme park, you're in West Wales, and we were thinking, well, how do we reach further and advertise more? And actually, we ended up working with a farm, which was a stunning farm that had rides and animals, called Folly Farm down the road. And we worked then with Manor House Wildlife Park and Heatherton. And you actually work together, and you can work together. And I would always say, try it on something. So try it whether it's an event, or try it whether it's a destination marketing campaign. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're working with the people in Portsmouth, so with the people of Portsmouth, that sounds a bit grand. We're working with the attractions in Portsmouth on trying to get people into Portsmouth. So we do something with Portsmouth Council, where the Spinnaker Tower and D-Day Museum and Mary Rose and National Museum of the Royal Navy, and now Portsmouth Historic Dockyard together, we advertise in London, because actually advertising in London individually is really expensive. But if you do it so there's lots of ways to do stuff collaboratively and find another angle. So we've got other people on our site that we're not partners with at the moment. So, the Portsmouth Naval-Based Property Trust, amazing people, who run some of the small boats that we did the gunboat race with the D-Day veterans on the weekend. Fantastic. So yesterday we had a really great volunteers tea party to celebrate the end of volunteer, and we had the volunteers from the Property Trust, we had the volunteers from the NMRN, the volunteers from the Mary Rose. There's always some synergy, and I would say in any way find it. I've done it everywhere I've worked, I've tried to get partnerships with local businesses, with other theme parks, with other attractions, because actually it's you're stronger together, you know. And if you're going, especially after a local market, because you've always got to love your locals, that's the most important thing. If they see that you actually the sort of people that work with each other, you know, it makes them almost more proud of you. You remember the game makers in the London Olympics in 2012 and how amazing they were, and how they did that sort of course where everyone was, you know, recommending all this stuff to you. That's kind of what you want. But I would find some common ground, whatever it is, whether it's lobbying. You know, we found common ground at Thorpe Park with other attractions to lobby the government for things, for VAT, to love it, or whether it's in Oakwood, trying to get some advertising to get people from Bristol to cross the bridge to come into Wales, or whether it's, you know, I'm trying to think, in Amsterdam, we worked, so Madame Tussauds was Amsterdam and Dungeons, which I was responsible for. We worked with Heineken because they had this amazing experience, and with tours and tickets. So we'd make sure that if anyone came to Amsterdam, they came to our attractions. You know, it's those sort of partnerships, finding the common ground and making it work. And don't be scared of it, because you are always bigger and better together. And customers have so much choice. So it's working together delivers amazing results. I would never want to go back to not being part of a partnership with the National Museum of Royal Navy, and I would love it if, you know, we could do more. We are keen to do more with other attractions in the south, to get people to come to the south coast, to come to Hampshire. But yeah, I would definitely do. And also, you get bigger buying power. So say, for example, you know, Merlin are really strong. So they don't necessarily need those with other partners, because they can do a campaign in the press. You know, the sun days go out and you've got all the Merlin attractions. But if you're individual attractions, you can't. So if you do a partnership with your competitors, you can then suddenly say, right, we want to do a days out, you know, campaign in the press between all these independent attractions. I mean, it's brilliant. I love it. And I love also this industry, how collaborative, especially the heritage side is. You can say, oh, I was thinking about doing this, what do you think? Or what do you think about that? And everyone will share, and everyone is almost willing you to be successful. It's crazy, right? It's one of the best industries in the world. If you were in the restaurant business, you wouldn't be doing that, would you? But or another, it's so good. Anyway, hopefully I've answered your question.
Oh, absolutely.
I get very passionate about it.
I love it. I'm so glad that you do, because it answered my question perfectly. And I think you've given so much value to listeners today in terms of all of the things that you've done. I couldn't have asked for a better response. Thank you. It's a big year for the Merry Rose, isn't it? And I think it would be very right that we talk about that. So it's your 40th year celebrations this year, isn't it?
Yeah, 40 years since the raising. So 1982 October. I am obviously older than you, so I remember watching it on Blue Peter as a child, and it was the world's first underwater live broadcast. It was watched by over 60 million people worldwide. I mean, it was amazing of its time. And so yeah, 40 years. So, and because of that, we've now got the world's biggest Tudor collection of everyday life. There's nowhere else in the world you can get closer to Tudor England. And we've got the biggest maritime salvation. So we've got a lot of plans to celebrate. Unfortunately, the pandemic got in the way. You know, during the pandemic, I'm not going to lie, it was horrific. There were times when we were drawing a list of who we're going to give the keys to. It got really, really bad. And it got dark for everyone. Every museum, every attraction, every business. So I'm not trying to say, oh, poor us. Everyone had that tough time. But it meant that actually investing, we were going to do another building. We were going to do a whole museum dedicated to the raising. And actually, probably one of the best things that came out of it is we didn't, because we got the joint venture, which was brilliant. Our trading improved. We had a fantastic summer. And then we're like, right, we should really do something for the 40th anniversary. But we can't afford taking another lease of another building or building another building. So what can we do? And we managed to come up with a few plans. So the first thing we're doing is we're doing a TV documentary, which is going to be brilliant. Coming out in October. Honestly, I've seen they've started some of the filming and the prelims. It's going to be brilliant. I can't give too much away.
That's so exciting.
We've had to sign something, but it's going to be great. And actually, we even had, because we're responsible for the rec site, so we had Chris and Alex, who helped raise the Merry Rose, our head of interpretation, head of research, amazing people. They were out diving the other day, because we're still responsible for the rec site, and it just gives you goosebumps. I saw the footage, and it's amazing. So we got that. We're also building a 4D experience. So when we reopened last summer, we opened with this thing called 1545, which was an immersive experience. And we wanted to get across, the Mary Rose didn't sink on its maiden voyage. It was Henry VIII's ship that when he came to the throne, he commissioned 2 ships. The Mary Rose was one of them. It fought in lots of battles. It had a long life and then sank defending Britain in a battle, by the way. The French who were invading was twice the size of the Spanish Armada, but because history is written by the winners, we don't hear that. But amazing. So we did this amazing immersive experience. We got Dame Judi Dench to do the voice, and you feel like you're going to get sunk. The ship does sink, and you go under, and then you go into the museum, and it's so good. And we're like, we want to do something for the end. We want to have a finale that says, because the thing about our museum, it's authentic. There's 19,700 artifacts. You can't get that anywhere else. I mean, it's just brilliant. Anyway, so we thought, how are we going to end this? And the thing we don't do justice to is the finding, the raising, the excavation, all the divers. There was 500 volunteer divers. From the 1960s, people were looking for it. I mean, Alexander McKee, who found it, was on the news, and people would say, it's like an Indiana Jones movie. They would say, oh, he's never going to find it. And other people were looking, the Navy were looking, and there was a bit, in Indiana Jones where they got the map the wrong way around, and all of that, brilliant. So they found the Marys. And then they've got Margaret Rule, who was this amazing lady who had, when she went to university, I think she didn't get a place at university at first because she was a woman. I mean, this is amazing today's day story. And she didn't dive. She was an archaeologist. And then she said, I'm going to dive, taught herself to dive. And without her, this museum, the Mary Rose, wouldn't be here. So Alexander McKee, Margaret Rule, 2 amazing people. Both of them. What a woman. But both of them, without them, we wouldn't be here. So we've got their, we want to tell their story. But also we want to put the guests and the visitors to what it's like to dive. So with a mixture of real life filming, footage from these 500 volunteer divers, outtakes from the Chronicle programs that are on the BBC, including, if we can get it to look right, even His Royal Highness Prince Charles diving, it is stunning. So we're going to take the guests on a bit of a pre-show with the history. Then they're going to get into the 4D theatre, and it'd be like you're boarding a rib going out to the wreck site. There'll be a dive briefing. You'll have the wind in your hair. The seats will be buzzing. I mean, I'm hoping it's this good. I better ring the people after. You're really
building it up, Dominic.
Yeah, well, they better deliver. No, they're brilliant. Figment, amazing. They're so good. So you get in there, and then you dive, and then you go down, and you see what it's like to be under the water. The Royal Engineers were involved. The divers were involved. And then you'll be there when the Mary Rose is raised. We're even going to recreate the moment, where it'd be brilliant. So we're doing, in answer to your question, we're doing a documentary and a 4D experience. And we've got anniversary lectures. So if you're around in October, come and get involved. We've got a lot of people from historians to divers to just talking about the relevance of the Mary Rose and the history of it, and also the diving. And we've got a new coffee table book coming out. So we've got lots and lots and lots going on. Oh
my goodness.
And if we'd have done it the old way, if we'd have done it with a new museum and a new building, I don't think it would have been as good. I mean, I joined the Divers Legacy Group. So about 150 of the divers on a Zoom call a few weeks ago. And it takes these people who, some of them are retired now, or, bear in mind, this was 40, 50 years ago. And hearing their stories, and it's living history, and it's so important that we tell these stories and capture them now, because in 50 years they won't be here, and part of our responsibility, our charitable objectives, if you like, is to tell the story and forever. And I think that bit of the story is missing. So if that's one thing that we do while I'm at the Mary Rose, I'll be really proud. So
that is wonderful, and it is.
You're gonna have to come, right? You're gonna have to come.
Well, this is the question: when do I need to come to experience everything that you've just sold to me? Because I am sold.
Well, yeah, you probably want to come after our anniversary, because we're hoping to launch all this around that time, which is in October. Which is now, this is an interesting one, because this was a good conversation with our trustees and our board. Do you want to launch something in the off-peak period? Don't you want to launch it at Easter or the summer? And my view is we should launch it because it's the right thing to do. And we're launching this in October because it's a legacy. We want the divers there. We want as many of them there as possible. And it's going to be at the Mary Rose forever. This is the ending to the Mary Rose Museum. So it doesn't have to, it's not like we're launching something for Easter or summer. So we are going to launch it in October. So I'll let you know the details. Come and get involved.
Oh, absolutely. I am there. If it's as good as what you've just described, then it's going to be one amazing day out.
It'd be better. And then the final thing, which we're not doing, but I wanted to do, is we've still got some of the Mary Rose down in the ocean. So one day I'd like to bring that back up. I don't think I'll be here to do that because it's probably been 15 years time or something, because we need to raise a lot of money and do that. But we want to bring the rest of her back up, or whatever's left down there back up. And that's quite exciting because, our story continues. We still do research. We did this fantastic piece of research on skeletons, on human remains. It's a really cool diversity story. Out of the 8 skeletons, one was Spanish, one was Venetian, 2 were North African, second generation, not slaves. A real diversity story in Tudor England. Amazing. Maybe the Victorians whitewash history, who knows? But what a great story. And we keep learning. And we've got this amazing team of curatorial staff, and all of our staff, from the maintenance to the visitor staff to the volunteers. And every day we learn something new. So there's so much we want to do. And then at some point, have you seen The Dig on Netflix?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Great film.
So
great
good.
Film. But I want to write to Netflix to do The Dive. Can you imagine this story about human endeavour with the Mary Rose? It would be amazing. Oh. So we'd like to do that as well at some point. But we just don't have enough hours in the day, right?
No, just add it onto that long list of stuff. Yeah. Wow. Thanks.
So if you know anyone at Netflix, let us know. Or if anyone from Netflix is listening, get in touch. We want to do that. It'd be cool.
I would love it if someone...
I've already cast it.
If someone from Netflix was listening, that would be incredible. Who have you casted?
Well, so local, because you've got to get local. So for Margaret Rule, I reckon Kate Winslet. She'd do a good job.
Okay.
Great actress. We've already got Dame Judi Dench, so the same sort of calibre in our 15'5" experience. And then also another local who could bring the Alexander McKee, Kenneth Branagh. But to be honest with you, Netflix can do all of that, because let's be honest, I'm not going to make movies, am I? I'm running a museum. But I just think it'd be really cool. It'd be really cool.
I don't think there's anything that you couldn't do, Dominic, to be honest, after this podcast. So who knows? Cool. Yeah, right, last question for you. A book that you love, that you'd recommend to our listeners.
I love this question, and I've really struggled. So I went back, like with the back and thought about a work example, because I think that's probably more useful. So in all of my career, I've come across lots of people who talk about strategy, and I have my own view on what strategy is. But there are lots of books you can read about strategy, and there's only one book that, in my opinion, that is worth reading, and it's this Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. Hopefully it's still in print. It is the only book to read on strategy. It's the best book. And without this book, I don't think I would have been able to do half the stuff that I've done, because it's all about how you formulate your decisions, how you make your decisions, what the outcome is. It's about execution. It's about everything that for me, you need to be successful. So I recommend this book. Really good book.
Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. I have not read that book, but I feel like that's going to go. Yeah, that's going to go top of my pile. All right, listeners, if you want to win a copy of this book, as ever, if you just go over to our Twitter account and you retweet this podcast announcement with the words, "I want Dominic's book," and then you will be in with a chance of winning it. Oh my goodness, I've had such a good time listening to you today. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing. It's been so valuable. That's blown me away today. I'm very excited about coming to visit, and thank you for sharing the insight into your partnerships.
No, absolute pleasure. And thanks for being kind with the icebreakers. You're going to get the rubber. That's
coming. Oh, yay! I got the rubber.
Because I was really upset that you've got a rubber collection without the Mary Rose.
I know.
Hurt my feelings.
I'm sorry. I've never actually visited the Mary Rose.
Well, so we're going to put that right.
We are going to change this, aren't we? So, I'm sorry. But maybe I will come and get my rubber in person then.
Yeah, let's do that.
That's what we'll do. Don't post it to me. I'll come and get it in person when I come and visit.
Yeah, let's do that. Thank you. Keep it up.
Thanks for listening to Skip the Queue. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. It really helps others find us. And remember to follow us on Twitter for your chance to win the books that have been mentioned. Skip the Queue is brought to you by Rubber Cheese. a digital agency that builds remarkable systems and websites for attractions that helps them increase their visitor numbers. You can find show notes and transcriptions from this episode and more over on our website, rubbercheese.com/podcast.